Hey y'all, I'm Allison Asarch from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids.
Hunters, this is Johnny from Rail Motor.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season.
Hey, it's Rob Stanier, and you can check out my music on all the streaming platforms.
Check out my latest music on all the streaming sites.
Check out my debut album on all streaming platforms.
Check out our new debut album.
Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And you're listening to our friends, Braggy and Curly.
And my favorite bands from Australia.
My two favourite podcasters,
Braggy and Curly.
Braggy and Curly.
On the
Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast.
And Rossi.
Hey there, everyone. It's Curly here and welcome to episode 190 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. We're going to go straight into the episode tonight. I'm going to bypass welcome. I'll welcome my co-host. We've got Braggy with us. He's back in Adelaide. As you can see, he's rugged up. 11 degrees, I think you were just saying down there, mate. So
yes,
it's cold.
Bit different to Agnes Water, where I've been for the last week or so. But that's all right. I'm back up there. I have to buy some property up there. I think I'm back up there again in August, Curly. So
I can. If you weren't already semi-retired, I'd say you'd retire there based on how often you go there.
It's not a bad place to go and do gigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when it's at this time of year in Adelaide. It's good to get out.
Absolutely. So. And we're going to welcome in our very special guest. He's a multi-golden guitar winner, Tamworth Country Music Festival Hands of Fame inductee. I'm interested to know what that is. And celebrated for authentic storytelling, dedication to craft. And he also hosts over 200 shows most years, I'm imagining, of the Catherine Outback experience. So welcome to the show, please, Tom Curtin. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, good, guys. How you guys going there?
Excellent. We're missing one of our co-hosts, Rossi, at the moment. I'm not sure. Maybe he's celebrating after New South Wales win.
Yeah, they won the Origin. Maybe it was, maybe. Who knows?
Tom, I usually like to start off with finding out how people got started in the music thing. So I just want to know, like, from a young age, when was the first time music was a thing for you? Was it when you were, like, growing up there around, going to school around Kingaroy, or was it later on when you were up in the Kimberley? Or did your parents play?
No, mum and dad never played. But I've got 4 other brothers. So as we grew up on the farm, half an hour out of Kingaroy towards Dolly, and we grew a lot of beef cattle and peanuts and corn. So we did have to do piano lessons every week. Mum and dad made us, 5 boys, and so I made it, I think, up to about grade 7 in actual piano lessons there, in that terminology. But I did a musical, I think, in grade 6 or 7 for the local town hall in Kingaroy. But apart from that, I did get a music scholarship to boarding school got in there. But my older brother was very switched on academically, so he got his fees covered. I tried out to go to boarding school like that, but just failed miserably.
All right.
Piano lessons, it's a bit hard to play the piano on the back of a horse. Where'd you pick up the guitar?
Yeah, well, I went to boarding school. Then I did a stint at uni at Gatton College, a 3 degree in beef cattle, and eventually got up here 2001 to the Northern Territory. All I wanted to do is work on a cattle station in the stock camp, mustering cattle. And there was something up here that inspired me to write songs. I was on the back of a horse every day. So I just began to write songs, couldn't play the guitar. This whole fella, out in the stock camp, gave me an old guitar, showed me 3 chords, and I just sit around the campfire most nights just trying to practice those 3 chords. And initially, the fellas thought I could just start playing that guitar straight away, and they all huddled around because there's no mobile phones or TV back then. But then they realised I couldn't, and so they just pushed me out onto the flat. I had to make my own campfire so I could see the strings and my fingers. So, but no, I loved it, and it sort of grew from there.
Oh, that's crazy. So they needed entertainment. So here's the guitar. Off you go.
Yeah. Play me a song.
That's cool. And obviously, you weren't writing your own at the start. Or maybe
Yeah.
you were, because there's no music to find out there. I guess you just had to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, no, I sort of just began to write my own, and even that I was on the back of a horse and I was in the lead, and we had about 2,000 head of cattle behind me, and the wind was blowing. We had to walk them 20 k's that day, and the wind was blowing. So I was practicing trying to sing this song all day, and I didn't know the fellows at the end, about 500 meters back, could hear me singing. And so that night, after we put the horses and the cattle in the yards, I went to have a shower underneath this old windmill. Had a bit of old rusty tin around it, and after I came out from singing this song again, those fellows are all gathered around the windmill or the rusty tin, and I came out and they all begged me to keep singing that song. Well, I hope they're listening to the song, because I think that movie Breakback Mountain came out about them.
What song was it? Do you remember?
No, it was called Smack Bang in the Middle of the Territory. So it was sort of the title track back then. I put an album out in 2004, and it became the title track of that album, Smack Bang.
Wow. What? And so you've just conjured up so many images there, Tom. The territory, the reason for it. I'm not going to go in the shower around the tin at all, so I'll keep that one out of my head. But it just seems so idyllic, sitting around a campfire. Here's a guitar, start learn, teach yourself how to play. That's just a fantastic story.
Yeah, well, it was hard enough trying to learn the three chords, because after a while, obviously, your fingers get pretty sore. But I think it was the rhythm section, that my right hand on the rhythm of the guitar was the hardest for me. But what I started to do was each horse I rode, because each horse you ride, when you get them you walk, then you trot, then you canter, third gear. And so they've got it, depending on how they're built, they've got a long neck and a short back. They're pretty smooth to ride. But if they've got a short neck and a long back, then they're a bit rougher to ride because they take smaller steps. So the drum beat of the hoof beat changes. So I began to write a lot of songs on the backs of horses.
So good.
So every day you're on a different horse because you don't want to wear out the same horse. So each day you're on different horses, and the melody would keep sort of change from a swing groove to a sort of a more straighter groove. And then I was trying to, even riding along, I had my right hand pretending to play the guitar in time with the horse's feet. And it was very challenging because each day it kept on changing. But eventually, managed to win a singing contest up near Darwin, got to Tamworth Country Music Fest, did the academy that got in there, and wrote a song with Becky Cole and a few other, and they were still shaking their heads going, how did you get down here, mate? You're so raw at all this. And I was terrified of, most of my life, I was out working on cattle stations, not in front of people. So, it was a learning curve.
Isn't that, it's like me being in the city here, if I'll get on the bus and there's you're out in the middle of nowhere with just some cattle and a few guys. I'll get on a bus, there's 50 people, but I see 50 songs because there's 50 different stories of all the crazy people that are on the freaking bus. And then the bus has a rhythm as well. And it's just interesting. I didn't realize, I just learned that about how different horses have a different feel, different groove, Rossi.
It's the same thing. I remember once while I was at university, I was working in a book bindery, and there were just industrial machines going all day, and the rhythm of the machines. So it kind of steps back though. When we think about what you're talking about, Tom, is that in America, in the West, they'd be the rhythm of the trains got a lot to do with it. The rhythm of the horse, the rhythm of the transport, the rhythm of how you get into somewhere has a lot to do with the sounds that go in your head. We had a guy, the fellow who was a Telstra lineman, who'd be out driving and it'd all be in his head, right? The travel, riding, distance, isolation, all got a lot to do with it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it sort of shapes your songwriting, I believe. And also those fellas that, because then they just expected me to write a song a day,
No pressure.
Yeah, so then it was a bit of pressure.
How hard can it be?
I know. But what I found was, if even now when I write a song, I picture myself going back, sitting around the fire and say, okay, now what would these guys think of this song? Is it real? Is it true? Does it, would it hit their wavelength? And so that's what I sort of picture to make sure that everything's sort of roughly keeping in line,
Well, I'm glad you say that, because as I listen to your songs, I listened to a bunch of them today. There's a real Australianness to your country. Yeah, like your country is like I work with a guy who's nominally a country guy called Shane Howard, who wrote some great songs about Australia, right? And I can hear the Australianness in what you write, the way you sing, like the accent, sure, but the way you sing and play, it doesn't sound like someone trying to break Nashville. Which is kind of unique,
we have some people who romanticize, don't we, Rossi? And romanticize about being what country is like, but like Thomas is like, right,
you are. Tommy's country, and like all about the top end, man. The top end, what a place! The stories you tell of the top end, like you got to love that. Like, I found it really kind of heartwarming listening to what you'd been writing and how it goes, mate. Just off the top of my head.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I think, and that's right. I think you got to stay true to yourself, and even had a few mates. We talk about going to Tamworth Country Music Fest and other festivals, and you get there and you go, oh my goodness, look at old mates doing this over here, and this girl's flying over in this lane, and they're singing about this, and then I think it's really good to have a look at all that stuff, but then you get back in your own lane, put your blinkers back on and say, well, this is who I am. This is what I do and what I know. Let's just stick in my lane. Still venture out a little bit, but I think, people get very disheartened, I believe, of going to all these other things and looking at your neighbour or whoever sort of, flying past. But I think at the end of the day, it's what is really in here that's going to make you keep writing and be passionate about what you sing about.
Yeah, being your authentic self, mate. Being yourself. Can't beat it.
Tom, it was interesting what Rossi just said, because I was listening to your music yesterday on the way to work, and it almost felt like I'm a child of so many road trips with my dad, and Charlie Pride, Slim Dusty, you name it. It was probably on Dad's old mixtape that he used to play. And it actually transported me back. Your music would not have been out of place in my dad's mixtape. So, and, the old Slim Dusty, the Lights on the Hill or A Beaten in Time, it's completely different music, but it would have been not out of place. It would have fitted in really, really nice. So I absolutely understand what Rossi's saying. You just conjure up this picture of what, while you're listening to your music, and it's Australia. It's the top end. It is.
At the same time, though, I think Tom is bringing it into the modern era, especially if we listen to the last single, top end tough. You got all those people on there, and you got a little bit of rap towards the end of it. So you're like including everybody. So I
like the guitar sound at the start too. A little bit of dirt, a little bit of a little bit of something. Like I heard it went, oh yeah, I can see that's been moving along a bit too. I like that.
Now with the latitude comes an attitude. You just gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, with the latitude comes an attitude. Yeah. When it gets too rough and you swear you had enough, when hope is gone, you carry on, so very strong. Yeah. When it's wearing thin, you suck it up and you keep riding. You don't give up with little stuff. We're top and tough, miles apart, strong of heart. We're top and tough. We're top and tough. Yeah.
It's getting real right now. It's another hot topic with the wet and the dry. You can never really stop it. You can feel it in the air. We'll make it through somehow. Cause for 60,000 years we've been right here, right now. Attitude comes an attitude. You just gotta do what you gotta do. With the latitude comes an attitude. Yeah. When it gets too rough
I did have a lot of mates, like, from boarding school and uni. I was still in touch with a lot of them, and a lot of them, love Slim Dusty and that. And I thought, well, when I first started singing, they said, oh, whatever, country, But then I thought, well, maybe if I just keep relevant, keep listening to other types of music and keep it modern sounding, so I do get played on radio and keep up with the times, so that my mates will actually, now they're coming with their families to my shows as I travel around. And it's, I think you still got to take your blinkers off and have a look and listen to other types of music and the sounds and the feel and vibe, but then also try to translate it back into your own world and still push, forward in that zone.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Top End Tough, because it is such a well produced song for starters. But as we all picked up, there's that little bit right towards the end where you could almost, it is, I guess, rap sort of a style. So tell us about the song and how it evolved, and I guess the arrangement with the production as well.
Yeah, I've got a good mate, Luke O'Shea, and he's from Sydney. He's a tremendous singer-songwriter, and we've known each other for about 20-odd years and something. And so I thought I love having country music nights out on a property up here, just out of Catherine. So I said to him, mate, I'll fly you up. You can come and do a show, but you got to stay for a couple of days because I want to see if I can write a couple of songs with you. And here I'm sometimes doing 3 shows a day. We do a bit of an Outback show, so we get a lot of people coming through, so we're always flat out. And he knew that, so he flew up, got a hire car, came down to Catherine, and straight away said, man, I've got this idea for a song. You've got to be really tough to live out here, don't you? You're so isolated, and it's so far, and it's so hot, humidity, and there's flies. And I said, yeah. And we started talking his Top End Tough. And then next day we started writing a bit. I had to shoot off to do a show, and he came back and, what else? So we sat down and talked about the isolation. And then I told him, listen, it'd be really cool to try to get an Indige fella in to help, talk about their land and way of life and make it all more united. And so we knew it. I said I'd love to have a bit of a rap in there. And so we thought it'd be really cool to incorporate a lot of top end artists in on the song. So we didn't really have it all finished yet, but we rang them, said, and some of them we didn't even know. I just Googled them and said, listen, want to come? And I heard their voice on YouTube. Said, listen, this is what we're doing. Here's a day. Keep it free. And then we're going to hire a little pub out the back. And we've got a room there. We can go through all the different parts for your vocals and see which part suits which. I hired a studio the same day for 3 hours. We're going to record our things there, and then we're going to do a video clip as well on the beach. So the sun goes down. So, basically they all rocked up. We ran through our parts, met each other, went and I've got 2 kids out of school as well, Indigenous kids. One played the clapsticks, one played the didge. And, and then we got them out and filmed it all as well. So, and then as we were, finding out the people's parts, this fella, I knew he did a bit of rapping, so that's why I got him. I said, listen, this part, we want to do a bit of a rap in it. And so, or the bridge version. So I wanted to try to, get this fella a bit fired up. So Luke and I began to write it about, 60,000 years we'll be here right now. And even then, when we're on the beach doing it, I thought it'd be really cool if we had the drone sort of, he's walking at the drone, and really pumping his chest and getting that message across to try to not lay down his authority, but just show people that they're still here and they're up here and they're part of our community. And try to get a out through it as well.
Yeah, that's so good. My favorite line is with the latitude comes an attitude. I don't think I've heard that rhyme before. It's a good rhyme. You gotcha? Yeah. Is that yours, Tom? Or
no, that was Luke's. I'll give it to Luke. That was a cracking line. I said, mate, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I've got to get T-shirts now made up with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a catchphrase, mate. It's a catchphrase. Really caught me too. Stuck right out.
Yeah. It actually gave me Jimmy Buffett vibes. I'm sorry. That's what because he's got latitudes and attitudes, but it's all about Key West, which is almost the complete reverse of what we're talking about with the top end. So, but I like the line. I like the line.
And working, Tom, with Sarah Storer. I mean, what a voice. She's got such an Australian voice too, huh?
Oh, she's amazing. And so when I was, first went on tour with Sarah Storer, I think she won a big mob of golden guitars back 2004 or 5. And I toured through Queensland with her, and I still just learn the guitar, and I sit on a chair, sing my 4 songs. She had all these sold out crowds, and I was absolutely terrified. And each night, I wouldn't eat all day. Came off there. I said, listen, I'm just going to go back to my horses in the territory. This is just too much. And she just, Tom, listen, mate. I said, because they're looking at me, the people in the crowd looking at me as I'm some sort of freak show, with a hat and singing. And she said, no, they're just trying to understand how well you know your craft, how true are your lyrics, how well I knew my own story, if I was believable enough.
Yeah.
And, if I was just wearing the hat for the show and then take my hat off and, go back to surfing or something, So she said, once people understand who you are and what you stand for, then you're going to have a massive following because they can see you're the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at the numbers on the socials, you're doing all right. I know how hard it is to get numbers like that on some of those songs. Some of those songs on Spotify with the 1.5 mil, that's massive, mate. That's what you can almost get money off them out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't even really paid too much attention to that stuff. So, mate said the other day we got over 1 million for streams for one song. But yeah, I'm sort of I'm very grateful. Totally grateful for that. And but I suppose I don't know. For me, it's more about. I love writing song. I love using really true lyrics and things. But if you can just rock into a town and put on a show and a concert, and then these people are singing your songs, but not only that, but when they're leaving, you've just reset or recharged all those people that have been down in the dumps, and they're just going out like absolutely buzzing. And for me, that's just the kicker,
Yeah.
Listen, that's pretty. Sorry.
You go, Rossi. No, you go, mate.
I was going to say, when you're saying people in the bush down in the dumps, like, people in the regions do it tough a lot over the years. Like sure, in the city we hear about it, but it's true, right? And so aside for that and Dolly's Dream, I was reading some of the work you've done, and I thought that was kind of spectacular, the stuff that you've sort of got yourself involved with as well. Very positive, very upbeat stuff, and sort of comes through in just talking to you briefly. Your genuine heart comes through about that stuff. So how'd you get caught up doing that sort of stuff? Is that just because you saw it and you saw a need?
Yeah, well, little Dolly, she passed away after a bout of online bullying and took her own life. We know the family really well. Her sister worked for us here in Catherine, Meg, and I was on tour at the time, and I wrote a song called Speak Up and asked good mate Sarah Storer to sing on the song with us. Producer Garth Porter down in Sydney donated his time to record the song. We donated it back to Dolly's Dream. And I just thought it'd be just my way of helping out. But I didn't realize how prolific that song went. It got introduced into a lot of schools, a lot of school bell rings, and now I got the Speak Up song playing instead of a ringtone. And then as we tour, we've been on the road the last 9 years for 6 months at a time, touring, and I visit probably a couple of schools every week, just drop into schools, and there could be 30 kids, there could be 1,500 kids from preschool to year 12 in big gymnasiums. And, I sing them 3 or 4 songs, a couple talk about anti-bullying and teasing kids, and a couple of funny songs to win them over, get them up dancing as well. And sort of, you got to treat them just like a horse, you can't just go in there and try to, manhandle them. You've got to win them over and get the best out of them. And then it's buzzing as you leave. But it's all about, just trying to, we don't get paid, but it's just my way of helping out as we travel around, So I think, and the stories we've heard back from that kids, parents have messaged, emailed, and said, "Hey, man, thanks so much for coming to our school. We heard your story, hearing others, examples of what goes on, and you've really helped us out." I mean, I know we've saved a lot of lives from just doing that part. I think $10 for every shirt. Not sure if you can see but we got Dolly's Dream here on the other side. Yeah. $10 for every shirt goes to Dolly's Dream. So I think we've raised over 100,000 now just from people buying a shirt.
Wow, man.
So my daughter used to manage a Smiggle, and Smiggle adopt that charity as well. Smiggle, the company that sells all the kids stationery and stuff. So I knew that from there. Yeah, and they support that well. It's a great thing. Hey, while we're talking about reality and songs, I'm itching to get to the story behind Bucket Baby. Because it's got one of the best lyrics of all time in there, which is then they threw me in a bucket until I made a ruckus. So who's that? What? I'm assuming that's written about someone you met right up in Catherine somewhere.
No, this one was met. I went southern WA down, a little town near Boyup Brook at a camp draft. I love camp draft, and where you chase cows around on your horses. So I went down there. I said, "Hey, you guys know any fellows who've got a good story here?" They said, "Oh, you got to go speak to Bucket." And I said, "Who's Bucket?" And they said, "That old fella over there. He's about 80-year-old." So I went over. He's a really humble, nice bloke, great sense of humor. And he's a bit shy. So I said, "Listen, just tell me your story, big fella." So eventually got it out of him that years ago, his mother was in the Kimberleys on Mount Hart Station, and she was pregnant with him, traveled 8 days on horseback with her husband into Derby Hospital. They had a lot of trouble giving birth, and they thought the baby was dead. So they threw the baby into a bucket on the floor. After a couple of minutes, he started kicking, came back to life. The mother was really crook. They flew her to Carnarvon. The dad got the baby under an umbrella on his horse, 8 days back out to the cattle station. Wow. He got raised up by an Indigenous community out there. And the dad was a drover. So he was droving cattle. The Indigenous lady, Maisie, would lead a camel, and he had a tea chest on the side of a camel. So this little baby would go in the tea chest because that was the safest way. Had a bit of shade behind the mob of cattle. He grew up there, learned how to catch goannas and barramundi and crocodiles with all the Indigenous mob out there. It's just an amazing story. Then years later, he married. He took his wife back up there, and he said he wanted to just meet Maisie again and all these kids he grew up with. And he caught up with them. And because at that stage, everyone knew him as the Bucket Baby, or they called him Bucket. And I said, "What did your mother call you?" And he said, "She never called me the Bucket Baby. She just called me son." And I went, boom, that's a killer line.
Oh, man.
Back that in.
People around here call me the Bucket Baby. Suppose there's a story to tell. How my mother and I just barely survived in the loneliest part of the world. It was an 8-day ride with the baby inside in the land of the Boab tree. And the journey starts when we left Mount Hart in the western Kimberley. Well, my father was a drover of shorthorn cattle up to Wyndham or out to Broome. And it's a hell of a life for a drover's wife, or if a baby comes too soon. So on the back of a horse, 3 rivers to cross at the tail end of the drive. Cicadas humming, wet season's coming, life's just a roll of the dice. Well, in Derby town we made it somehow, but it went from bad to worse. With no help about, I wasn't coming out, and the only had one nurse. Now with some luck about, well, they cut me out, but they thought I was stillborn. So they threw me in a bucket until I made a ruckus just to prove them wrong.
That is a freaking movie, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's an amazing story, and you know, even as he grew up, he used a lot of Indigenous people in his stock camps, mastering cattle. He said he had great respect for him, and he said it's just a phenomenal, journey he's taken. And I thought, man, we've got to whack this into a song and get all this down. And I went back there early this year, and I said, hey, mate, I have a listen to this. So he stayed at his farm with his wife and his son, and we pressed play. And, mate, they just broke down and said, man, they just hugged me. I said, thanks so much. This is just phenomenal. So it was good, again, just to give something back to them.
So
it's all
cool.
It's all, yeah.
So cool.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. When I first heard it, I'm thinking, is this about Tom? Can't be. Because he's too young for that sort of stuff to happen, I would think, up in the top. But wow, yeah, I love that. Oh, that's really
incredible,
good.
Incredible. So, so Tom, tell us about how, and a couple of things. As we mentioned off air, we've had Laura Frank on our show a couple of times, and she was one of the first times is when she was just about to take off on like 70 tour dates with you with your traveling show. How did that all come into? Because it was, I still remember the episode because we were all just sort of looking at each other and thinking, music, animals, country folk, and we're just like thinking
like Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Yeah. So how did all that come into play? And the logistics must be incredible.
Yeah, well, most of my life I've just trained other people's horses on cattle stations, pretty wild horses, and I catch them, quiet them down, ride them, then we send them back out to the ringers or the workers to go muster the cattle. So for a couple of years I stayed up here over the wet season, and it was just really hot trying to train horses in the humidity. So then I started to go down I had a mate at Perth on his farm and mum and dad at Kingaroy. So I used to, over the wet season, 4 or 5 months, go down there in the cooler weather and train horses. And then 2013, we started this Outback show here, and like no one came to the first show, and there was only 1 or 2 people would ever come. All my mates said, Tom, just give up. It's never going to happen. And but I just had a gut feeling that even though I was doing shows to just 1 or 2 people, it wasn't a polished show. I was just flying by the seat of my pants, training wild horses. I'd get bucked off, be training these dogs we just pick up. People didn't want. I just fly by the seat of my pants, add a few songs here and there, and I started to slowly morph into a bit of a show. And then I thought, well, instead of going down south breaking in horses, maybe we just load up the truck and take 20 yard panels, fencing yard panels, and we rock into each town. They give me a wild horse. I spend 45 minutes on the wild horse in each town down the west coast, and just see if we can give a bit of a demo on that. And then, because I only had about 3 dogs, a horse, and a guitar, and picked up the horse.
There's a line. That's a good line.
I was thinking a song title, but yeah, good line.
Could be.
An album title.
Sorry, go on, Tom.
Yeah, so I got the horse for nothing because he kept bucking everyone off. So I had to get him, and I taught him to lay down and roll out a swag and push a pram and things like that. And then, I had to make up a bit of a, the show. So I couldn't just I sing a song and have a horse because I didn't have enough time. So as we went down there, and 2 years before that, I met my wife hitchhiking through southern WA. Her old man picked me up off the side of the road, took me back to his farm. She was a town planner out of the middle of Perth. So I met her that night, kept in touch for 12 months, eventually convinced her to come to Catherine. So we were sort of going out at this stage. And so a lot of people, my mate said, you got rocks in your head, thinking you can just go out on the road, start a show and people come and actually pay tickets. And And so I said, well, I heard Slim Dusty did it about 6 nights a week. So what if we do it 5 nights a week? And that way I've got to put diesel in the truck, got to feed horses and dogs. So it's only myself and my wife. Let's just do it. So we started off, and sure enough, we only got 10 or 15 people coming all the way down. I think Cal Barry, I think we got 30 people there. So we slowly, and it was tough going, but it set a bit of a pavement down that way. And then we got back up here. The next year we said, let's go east and see what happens. So we headed east that way. And slowly, sure enough, they gave us a few horses each way we went. And, it was tough. But then over the years, we sort of, because when I first did it, I was thinking, well, here I am, this is a show, and I was so nervous that I wasn't really worrying about the kids. The families would come off the cattle stations, and then I thought, well, actually, because the parents started freaking out, where's my kid gone? They're looking around, and I thought, well, if we could actually harness those kids over here, get them here doing stuff, then the parents are going to chill out. They're going to stay longer, and then possibly we can get these kids to then buy a bit of our merch. If we give a few free CDs out, give them the idea, then hopefully it'll start. And that's what happened. It started growing. The kids started to love our stuff. I did more kids things, kids songs in amongst all the adult songs, So instead of doing your cover every third or fourth song, I did a kids song. And so then that brought the crowd back in, did a few originals, did a kids song. And so then I'm just working the crowd, just like I was looking at a horse. Oh, no, they're losing it. Let's do something else here to bring them back in. Same thing as you guys know. It's all about your stage presence and craft. And then over the years now, instead of doing 10 or 15, I worked out the other day, just north of Perth, we did 1,300 people came to a show. And I worked out it was my 2,757th show that I got.
What?
My 1,000th. Yeah.
What?
Because when I first started, I told my mates who said, no one's going to rock up to any of your shows where you've got dogs on drums and horses. And then coming back from Tamworth the other day, I was thinking, imagine if actually, we did get over 1,000 people on this 9 years later. And, and I thought, and I had a bit of time, so I worked out how many shows I'd done. And, so, and I told the crowd that night, and we got the biggest cheer on tour, So I just thought, well, if you just keep at it, keep your head down, you get a little negative flack and things say people say you can't do stuff, but you just put your blinkers back on and just work your guts out, and you'll be amazed at what can happen.
It's like, it just blows my mind. I don't know, like you learn to play guitar by just someone gave you the guitar and then they expect you to play, and then I don't know, just the balls to have an idea and then go out and do that. But then I think, oh, well, I guess if you're getting on the back of a freaking wild horse, taking a show on the road, it's just, you know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out how you get that mindset to go, just give it a go, and then away you go. Where did that come? How did that happen in your life? Where did that come from?
I think as a kid, we had this picture up on the wall in our house, in the family room, five sons, and it had 2 birds flying, and underneath it said they can because they think they can. And every time times got tough, we had to do our homework and milk the cow or get firewood. Mum or dad, we'd always be complaining as kids, and mum and dad would always point to the wall and say they can fly because they think they can fly. And so it just got ingrained into us. And that's so, a lot of people say, mate, how positive are you? Like all this stuff. And when COVID hit, we had no tourism. We had to think outside the box and start, doing all this other stuff up here. I said, yeah, but you can work it out. And I've got a very supportive wife, Annabelle. She's amazing as well, very positive. And a lot of my songs are positive because we go to so many regional towns that people are suffering. The last thing I want to do is, trigger them or put them in a bit of a downer. So I'm always uplifting, trying to inspire people to keep on. It's pretty powerful.
That's a bit of a lost art, that. The creative art, sometimes the artist makes it all about them. And sometimes I find that leaves me a bit cold. It's really, you've got to give to them because they're the reason you're there, right? That's what I've always found anyway. That the reason you do the show is because there.
That's exactly right. It's like the whole thing. Like I could stay up here over the wet season and watch the storms roll in and play a bit of guitar and train a few horses. But now I feel obliged to get on the road and get to these towns that, miss out on a lot of entertainment, but also are suffering. We'll be going through where they've flooded, and we're putting on some free shows and free things like that for the kid. We go into their schools, and it is tough. It is pretty full on for us as well. But man, like the stories you hear out there. I heard one the other day in a town that flooded, and this lady just came up to me and in the lineup buying merch. She's about 50. And she said, "Tom, do you mind if I just hug you?" I said, "Yeah, mate. Never had that in my life." So she hugged me and wouldn't let go. She started sobbing a bit for about a minute. I go, "Mate, are you all right?" Didn't even know her. And she said, yeah, no, sorry about that. Thanks so much. I just wanted to say thanks for coming to your town. You have no idea what this means to our community. And it's not just me. It's the connection of music and animals and that crowd interaction. And then later I heard another bloke came up and said, "Mate, that guy over there's just been in tears the whole time you've been here." They found him. He was flooded. His house was flooded. He had a foot of air in his house. He's up there and he's yelling out to him. They're in a boat outside his house yelling to him, "He's still there, mate. He's still there." They had to break a window, go underwater, grab him. Let's go straight down out, and back into the boat. And he's just, I had no idea, but these are the stories you hear him. And the old mate to be still there and taking all this in, and they're just so grateful that you come to there, you give them entertainment, you give them your time. It's whatever they want. And I feel now it's the least I could do,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. You go. Sorry, Curly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Braggy, I mean, I'm amazed at everything that you've done and why you do things, but I do want to sort of check in with a couple of the songs that really sort of resonated with me. Obviously, Top End Tough, I loved the new song, but I actually really resonated with Living in the Bush. I thought that was a pretty cool little ditty that you've got together there. And I really enjoyed Territory Time, and Territory Time's the one that you've got 1.5 million streams. So I think I'm not the only person. So tell us a little bit about Living in the Bush. What was the motivation behind writing that particular song?
Yeah, I suppose I love trying to make visuals as I'm writing, connecting the lyrics to a visual so that the listener can actually roughly picture or imagine what it would look like, So all the lyrics and phrases, really trying to take that person on a bit of a journey and get them to think, even if you're sitting in the city, what the heck would that be like, swimming a tire in the swimming hole and, fishing and skipping rocks and all that sort of imagery. And I'm always trying to use lyrics that haven't been just used all the time, just a little bit unique, a little bit off track. And sometimes I want that people to go, if they're into that song, what the heck does that actually mean? And type it into Google to get, a bit of a phrase going. And it's, I just think it's out here. It's, there's a lot of terminology we use in the bush or in the territory or in Kimberley that other areas of the country don't use. And so very passionate about preserving that and recycling that into another way that we can sort of, create the imagery that will then sort of, I suppose, instill people to start talking about the song or connecting to the song, in a little bit way than other songs.
Rolling down a dirt track, lying on a haystack, fishing at the river bend. Rocking on a dirt bike, music on a satellite, hanging with a bunch of friends. Cricket in a dust bowl, swimming at the water hole, that's alright by me. And we're living in the bush to the beat of the Say it loud, say it proud, we've got it good. We're living in the bush.
Yeah, absolutely. Braggy, Territory Time, did you connect with that? Because
I've got the lyrics here from The Good Life.
Okay.
I like sunrise starts with the bird song and the sunset ends with the dingo's call. That's right, because I love those two. There's something special about those two parts of the day when the sun just comes up. As things change, and same when the sun goes down, all the birds stop singing and all the other sounds. So here in Adelaide, I love it in the morning because we've got the little blackbirds out trying to build a castle trying to find a girlfriend in the backyard. And then at night, we've got a colony of fruit bats, believe it or not, in Adelaide that live in the thing. And at night, the bats, which reminds me of home in Townsville, the bats come over just as on sunset. So, yeah. But it does create that, image of the territory. And you got that song Never Never too, which Never Never Go. You didn't come up with that thing for tourism, did you?
Waterfalls are raging, floods are pushing through. Rovers dancing in the rain, wildflowers start to bloom. The spinifex is waving like lizards in the sand. The crocodiles are watching while buffalo makes a stand. Well, we're all part of the dream, we're ancient and we're new. Storm clouds and thunder or a sky so blue. With the billion stars above, the horizon never ends. But we never say never, here in Never Never Land.
So I did the first two albums, 2004, 2006. And then, I went out just flat out training horses through the territory in Queensland. And then 2013 started this Outback show. And I think it was about 2017, Luke O'Shea and his family came through and he said, and I'd met Luke before, and he said, Tom, what the heck are you doing? You need music. He said, I've just come through Mataranka, which is an hour east, and they call that little area Never Never Land. And then I said, well, so Luke co-wrote the song with Luke O'Shea, and he was instrumental in getting me back on track, writing songs, recording songs, and singing up the top end.
Yeah.
What was you go on, Curly?
No, you're right.
I was going to ask what was Garth Porter like to work with, because Sherbet was big in my life when I was a young fella.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I met Garth back in 2003 in Tamworth, and I had no idea who he was. But Sarah Storer had been doing an album with them. So, she put me in touch. We had a bit of a yarn, and then, but he is amazing. Like, in the first two albums, I'd written a lot of my songs, but then he came along and said, look, basically, you've got the right idea, but you still need a lot of work on these songs, okay? So he just ripped them apart. And I said, it's really hard because you're so sentimental about these songs, the older people that really know the stuff.
You would have had something. You would have any con with Garth Porter? Any? Not really.
No, not really. They're sort of like Sydney. They're royalty. They're New South Wales royalty down here. Tony, I was watching a clip of Tony Mitchell playing yesterday. He plays bass a bit with my good mate Murray Cook.
Yeah, from the Wiggles. Awesome. All right, Tom. Because we're having some technical dramas, we may start to just wind up. So what's coming up for you apart from no doubt another 70 shows around Australia and winning some more golden guitars and more tourism awards? But outside of that, what's on your plans?
Yeah, I think we're just here for 5 months now till the end of September. We're going to do about 250 shows here, sometimes 3 a day with the GAN train passengers, AAT Kings buses, school camps, travellers coming through. I shot to Sydney the other day, recorded. I got a new album, comes out in August 22nd. And I shot to Sydney the other day and recorded another 5 songs. So when the album comes out, we can still keep releasing to Spotify every couple of months of new songs coming out as well, just to keep that sort of going. And then, we head to Cairns beginning of October for another 70 shows, or Cairns, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and a lot of towns in between. So, yeah.
Where is that, at Adelaide in the showgrounds, or where do you?
Mount Pleasant, Melrose.
100%. So, Tom, what's your favourite? Where should people go if they want to see you at your best in social media?
Yeah, maybe just
Instagram.
Tom Curtin on Facebook, and we put up a lot of film, keep everything interesting.
Okay. Awesome. I will make sure they are in the show notes, Tom. Tom, it's been an absolute fascinating time spent. One of the things I'd love to do is sit around a campfire with you, because I think you'd keep me entertained all night. So couple of beers, couple of cold ones, watch the sun go down, and couple of horses tied up to a tree. You've just really made you've painted the picture, mate. You've taken this inner city boy or underground out in the country, and you've given me the full experience. So that is absolutely awesome. Rossi, make sure you hang around. We'll catch up with you after we finish recording. Braggy, always a pleasure seeing you. Check out the Rail Motor video that's now up there on YouTube about Braggy's global tour of Agnes Water. It's a cracker. It's a really good little video. So well done, Braggy. So next week we have the amazing Katie Brooke joining us on our show. She's a repeat visitor. Yes, people do come back and chat with us. So always a pleasure. But Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really need to get that internet fixed up there in Catherine and get you back on the show, because I think we only just scratched the surface of the questions that we had. So, all right. As for everyone else, we will see. Thanks once again, boys, and we will see everyone else next week. Bye for now.
Guys. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
She was sitting on the bus on the way to school. They were making fun of her. Life can be so cruel. She was staring out the window, wishing she was home, when someone spoke up and said, "Hey, leave her alone." Good on you.
Well, he was feeling down and right out of luck. He'd done his best and told that he wasn't good enough. He was going nowhere, way beyond the blue, till a mate cheered him up somehow and he pulled him through.
You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes. You gotta stand up, even if your world breaks. Be there for one another, we're all in this together. You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes. She was breaking inside, where it hurts are hard to mend. Sitting by herself, she needed a friend.
And when someone came on over, they talked for a while. A light flicked on, her eyes lit up and she raised a smile.
You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes. You gotta stand up, even if your world breaks. Be there for one another. We're all in this together. You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes.
Family and friends, you gotta hug a little tighter. You can make a difference, make the world a little brighter.
Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Stand up, even if your world breaks. You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes. You gotta stand up, even if your world breaks. Be there for one another. We're all in this together. You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes.
Come on.
You gotta stand up, even if your heart breaks. Be there for one another. We're all in this together. You gotta speak up, even if your voice shakes. You gotta speak up. That's right. You gotta speak